Maxo Kream is a rapper out of Texas. He's collaborated with artists such as Lil Uzi Vert and A$AP Ant. Punken is his first studio album. Trevor alerted me to this project because Danny Brown retweeted it and it had some cool cover art. So Trevor was like, we have to review this. I listened to it. And overall, I think there's a lot to like here.
I'm 2 for 2 now.
What was the first one?
Freedom is free.
Oh, okay. That was like a year ago, so you need to catch up. I've been like 50 for 50 at this point. Yeah, there's a lot to like about this project. I think Maxo Kream has a lot of good flow. I think a lot of the skits, the little intros and outros are a lot of fun on this project. I think Maxo Kream not only tells a lot about himself, but he kind of shows a darker side of himself throughout the entire project. And I feel like it kind of, whether he's talking about violence or drugs, I feel like it actually comes through with some strong songwriting at points. But other times on this project, I feel like he almost gets lost in kind of like contemporary trap music, and he just can't find his way out of the void. There's like several tracks on this album where I feel like he's not able to let his really solid flow or good songwriting kind of like shine through on this project. Tracks like Capeesh, which has Trippy Red on it, and Bussdown and Hobbies, which are all in like the middle part of the album.
They're all in a row.
They just feel really like just taking contemporary trap music, putting it in a blender, and then just serving it. It feels like just a complete mix of all contemporary trap. It doesn't seem like really any personal style. It feels like he's more following trends than anything else. I think on these tracks, Maxo Kream isn't really letting his strong qualities or his stronger qualities as a rapper shine through. And not only that, but I think a lot of the production on these tracks are very forgettable. It's tracks like these that kind of put a hindrance on the entire project, and it's a shame because there are really, really good moments on this project, but these really modern contemporary trap moments are just so lame, so boring, and they take up too much time on this project that it kind of just slows it down to the point where it's really hard to finish this project, I feel like, because you start off with Work and Grannies, which are two great tracks, and I think Maxo Kream comes through with a lot of good songwriting, with good backing instrumentals behind him, good backing production.
He's a great storyteller too. These are stories that could just be like thrown away, but I think he delivers them in a way that's really interesting and that kind of sucks you into his world.
Yeah, these stories aren't too long, I would say. I would hinder to say if there's stories as much as he's just kind of telling you about his life. Just very short points. I don't think there's any
I pick out
like long
specifically,
lyricism.
yeah, I pick out specifically like talking about his getting his start in the rap community and work, or how he used to get in trouble at school and his teacher would always tell his granny when he did something wrong, and he would get in trouble with her on, well, obviously on the track Grannies. And then going down even like further into the album, I think Roaches and 5200 both tell interesting stories too about like having, well, he says roaches in his cereal and roaches all over his house. You know, he obviously comes from like a poorer neighborhood. They give like little insights into his life without being really long or dragged out or a traditional storytelling track.
On this album, one consistent thing is I think Maxo Kream has, I've said this before, a really good flow, but I feel like it's really consistent throughout the entire project, even on even on the weaker tracks. I feel like his flow is able to shine through. It isn't able to carry the track to where it needs to go, but I feel like it shines through a lot, and I think it's very fast, and it's very like he's able to just carry the consistency of the speed onto the hook. Or there doesn't seem to be that many spaces, I feel like, weirdly enough. At least on a lot of the middle tracks, I don't get that. It seems like he goes into his verse, and his verse cuts directly into the hook, and the hook connects directly into the verse. It doesn't feel like there's that big of a space, or there's a big production breakdown, or anything like that. I feel like that's something unique that these middle tracks have working for him, is that they all flow really well into each other, weirdly enough. I just thought that was something interesting about Maxo Kream that was presented on this entire project. So what did I like about this project besides his good songwriting, besides his good flow? I just like a lot of the topics he covered on this project. I don't know. I like the narrative he tells on Love Drugs, where he's talking about he doesn't like this girl as much as drugs, which is really heartbreaking to say, but like I think it's something. It takes a typical thing talked about in the rap community, drugs, but it puts kind of like a new twist on it. Drugs in the end, it kind of shows this kind of dependency on it and how he needs it. More dependency on someone who's actually going to tell them the truth, or someone who's going to be treat him well, or something like that. I think it's a really unique side to this one narrative, and it shows a depth to his character in a sense. And the fact that he's self-aware almost of this nature, I think is really unique and fun. What did you like about this project?
I think you brought up a lot of really good points about like his character, the insights into his character. I think a lot of rappers don't actually they don't let their character go. What do we know about Lil Pump besides he's violent and like
Drop-kicking security guards?
Yeah, or performing in Walmart parking lots, or Lean, or Zans, like what?
But he's leaving Zans in 2017.
Good boy.
And he's now eating Tide Pods.
But like most of these rappers don't really let that kind of insight into their character go unless they do sort of the rare, insightful, slower track, and then it's hailed as a masterpiece because they talked about themselves.
Yeah.
I think Maxo Kream is completely flipping that on its head and telling all about himself. And personally, to me, that's where some of the best rappers succeed.
Yeah.
Open Mike Eagle does this all the time, and he has ended up being one of my favorites. Well, I mean, even artists like Injury Reserve or Mega Ran, I think that they talk about their personal insights a lot more than most other rappers out there. Kendrick does too. They bring something new to the table that shouldn't be new. And I think that's what makes a good rapper and good lyricism. You can't rap about the same things over and over again. But Maxo Kream is taking things that are rapped about over and over again. These are tired and tried and true subjects in the rap community, and they work because a lot of other rappers relate to it, but they don't cover any new ground. And I think Maxo Kream, personally, you talked about Love Drugs. I think that he is covering this old topic, but putting a whole new spin on it. This is something that's never talked about. But you know what? I bet a lot of other rappers and people in general feel the same way or have been in his shoes before and just won't talk about it or won't admit it. Maxo Kream's production really kind of brings the project along from the opening first like vocal bit interlude into work pouring into Grannies. I think that whole like production wise was really interesting, and it's really just sonically fun. I couldn't help but think of the similarities between Danny Brown and him throughout the project because Danny Brown retweeted him after all. They worked together. I can't help but think about the similarities, and I thought about all the different reasons I like Danny Brown. A lot of them show up on Maxo Kream's project, besides his high-pitched punk squealy
I've been sweating
voice.
like I'm in a rave. I've been stuck in this room for 3 days. Yeah, but like one thing that Danny Brown doesn't really have is I feel like Danny Brown doesn't really have these moments. You can maybe make for a case on old that he kind of has these very, very trap influenced moments that are just modern trap music and nothing more. But on this album, I feel like these, again, going back, and I hate to rephrase myself over and over again, but those moments, he's not introspective. He doesn't really have anything to say about himself. He doesn't have any new topics. He just is repeating the same old shit. And then it's from Capeesh until, I would say, Astrodome Part 2. He doesn't have any shit to say. And then we get into Love Drugs. He gets into the heavy topic about loving drugs more than this girl. We get into Pop Another and Janky, Roaches, and 5200, where he actually has more shit to say, and he's talking more about his life, like he did on Grannies and Work. But there's just this long gap, and nothing happens. It's essentially the album just hits its brakes, and nothing's happened. There's no good production. He has nothing to say. The features that are there, Trippie Redd and Deep Flowers, are just
I think
terrible.
Trippie Redd did this.
Trippie Redd is not good, at least on this project.
I think he added some color to the project, just on that one specific track, and I'm talking like vocal color. There was actually like a melody, there was actually like some sort of melody to it. But after that, I think you're right. Like, it's just mostly trap influenced beats, trap influenced lyricism, trap influenced production, just everything. It just seems like a huge smudge over this project. And I think that's not to say there are no good moments in these tracks, because I seriously, I think there are.
On Capeesh, the hook.
Yeah.
100 on Capeesh. Some on Capeesh. It's it's catchy as all hell.
Sure.
There's good hooks on these tracks.
Deflowers, however you pronounce it, Deflowers, I think his feature was interesting. I thought that the Beyonce interlude, with the vocal bits again, were interesting.
Okay. Deflowers, I couldn't get over his verse because he sounds just like a more literate designer.
Yeah.
He's like designer, like when he takes out his grill and he took a literacy class.
He took a college remedial English
He
class.
took a speech class.
At your local library.
He read some books.
This is designer. If he ate his Wheaties in the morning.
If he took his
and
Adderall.
went to school finally. But nonetheless, it was interesting.
I don't think... I thought it was okay, but like he didn't add anything to the track. Trippy Red, I would say, is a very similar little Uzi Vert type.
Oh, absolutely. Sounds exactly
I feel like
him.
he adds a bit to the instrumental, like the his little vocal performances that happen everywhere, and he's part of the hook. But his actual verse is the most pointless thing.
Oh yeah.
Like on this album,
I was hoping he wouldn't get a verse.
Honestly, I think that would make the track better. I think I probably would have had more to say about this track if he didn't have a verse, because it limits what Maxo Kream is trying to talk about. I don't know. I'm almost kind of disappointed that the middle section actually exists, and I hate to say that because the parts when this album shines, it's like the brightest fucking thing in the world, but when it's off, is like the complete void of darkness.
It's boring.
It's like when it hits, it hits direct on, but when it misses, it like goes to fucking like Alabama instead. You're aiming for like Texas, and it hits Alabama. I don't know what the fuck.
That's not that far.
It's aiming for Texas, and it hit
Maine.
Yeah, I guess that's a better joke. I think. I don't know.
It's farther away than Alabama is. I think if you took from Bussdown to Astrodome Part 2 out of this and just released it as like an EP or released it as a mixtape, I seriously think this project would be really great.
Take out Trippy Red's verse on Capeesh. And I think
that was even forgivable. If that's the only bad thing, you know?
Yeah. Okay, I think you can even probably keep Astrodome Part 2.
So if you took out Bust Down through Beyonce interlude, but kept the vocal part, or kept
and then took out on Janky, took out his stupid hook that I'll talk about in a minute. I think this would be like a...
This could really be like a diamond in the rough. I almost want to compare it to Lou the Human's project, Humaniac, in saying that I think it's hard to review an artist's first album because there's nothing to compare it to. And so I know that when we reviewed Lou the Human, we talked about all the different ways that the album could be better. And if he took out a couple things or he added a couple things, then the project could really be shining. But for what it was, there were some nitpicks, but I ultimately think that Lou the Human's project was pretty decent.
Yeah.
I think that Maxo Kream, his project is pretty decent. But I think that there are just a couple like smudges on here. These guys could be really good artists if they were... Not to say that we're right or we always know what we're talking about, but I think that if they listened to that advice or if they made just a couple changes to their lyricism or to their production choices, you know what I'm saying? Then they could have been good projects, and I'm excited to see what Lou the Human has in the future. I'm also excited to see what Maxo Kream has in the future.
I hate to say this, but I was thinking about this earlier. I hate to put Maxo Kream in a box. I really do. I think the highlights we got in this are the best highlights we're going to get from him. Not to say he won't match these highlights in the future, but I think that's his kind of ceiling. And I would love to be proven wrong. I would love to, because I hate putting people in boxes like that. But I think his biggest problems were following the contemporary trap sound and some lame production and some bad features. But when you fix all those things, you get moments like Roaches. You get moments like Pop Another, which are good. I think those are really, really so strong moments, but I think that's kind of his ceiling. And is that a good thing? Yeah, but is there anything past that? I think Danny Brown throughout its entire career has managed to work past the ceiling and still continues to do, but I don't see Maxo Kream doing that. I can potentially see Lou the Human doing that, but I don't know. I would love to be proven wrong, but I don't see anything past that. But maybe if he does find himself, make more references to himself, become more introspective, have more stuff to say, not even about him, but about his community, about his interactions with people, or just have stuff to say that isn't just these random statements about drugs or violence or crime or anything like that, or just these dumb like statements in general that are just filled in the fucking rap community. Don't work with artists that are just part of the modern trap. If you're gonna work with, I hate to say this, but if you're gonna work with a Little Uzi Vert clone, just work with Little Uzi Vert instead. And it's not like he hasn't before. He's worked with Little Uzi Vert. Little Uzi Vert featured on one of his tracks he released last year.
Yeah.
And I don't think the designer's that out of range at that point. Maxo Kream has a lot to offer, and I hope he improves as time goes on. I don't know if he will, but I can hope.
I hope. Yeah, I also hope that he improves. I would never hope on an artist that they just don't get any better.
Yeah.
You know, because I am holding out hope personally for Maxo Kream, because I think that he could seriously be something, or at least break into the place that Danny Brown is in. You know, I think he could break into that community at some point. But it will take a lot, you know, it'll take some work. The things that we mentioned, they were like, what, 3? We had like 3 suggestions. Those are way easier said than done. Get better features, like, that's tough to do.
Get better features,
get better production,
songwriting,
better songwriting. Like, that's difficult to do, but I seriously think that he can do it, because I think that he offers a lot of introspective, like you said, like references to himself and just storytelling about himself on, like I said, tracks like Work or Grannies. I think that he will see what tracks become the most popular and what songs people want to hear more of and what songs people want to hear less of. And I think that if he was smart as an artist, he will take that advice.
And not to say it can't be done. Look at Danny Brown, transition from old to Atrocity Exhibition.
That's not saying old is bad.
No,
but
old's okay in my opinion. There's some weak moments on there, you have to admit. But like for Atrocity Exhibition, he completely like dropped everything.
Oh yeah,
he completely
absolutely
found a new sound, and it was amazing, and it like completely changed up the rap game. With Maxo Kream, I hope he's willing to do something like that. Not to say he has to take up the same sound as Danny Brown, but I want him to like completely switch up the rap game. I want him to find instrumentals that are out there, something different. And I think he kind of did this on tracks on this project, whether it's on the opening track, whether it's on Work, or whether it's on Pop Another, where they sample Tame Impala, which is one of the most interesting sample choices on this project. There's a lot to like this project. I think also there's a decent amount to dislike.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. I don't have really any other complaints than that. I think Maxo Kream is really good about talking about himself, talking about his world, giving stories from his life. Like just on Roaches, where just for the little section, the little half verse where he's talking about wanting to be a wrestler, getting hit with a steel chair, and then having to go to the hospital and thank God for welfare. It's just like that's also just such like a dumb verse, but it's great.
Just weird stuff.
Because like as a kid, I could relate to like wanting to be a wrestler and like playing them out with your friends, and just like doing dumb shit, and then someone gets hurt, and you're like, oh shit. Like it's funny. Like it's a funny little story, and it's not as like dark as some of these other stories where he's talking about like robbing this Asian lady or stealing these cars and stuff like that. Even though these are really dark stories, I think he's being honest about them. There's a level of honesty to this project.
He should
which
let
is nice.
himself go, I think, is the best way to put this. Let himself be himself. Because sometimes I feel like he's saying like, oh, trap music is selling, I gotta make trap music. And he makes trap music, and then he makes a verse about the wrestler, and he's like, yeah, I remember that time. I remember when I wanted to be a wrestler and somebody got hurt. And then he snaps back into it, and Trippy Red's whispering in his ear. He's like, come on, man, we gotta go. And he's like, oh, shoot, I forgot. Like, I'm supposed to be making trap music. And then he goes back to it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I wish he would just let himself be himself, because himself, the moments where he shows himself are the shining moments on this project. Yeah, and they make this project, they make the really strong moments strong. They make them what they are.
I can't say enough about Roaches though, especially in the second half of the track where he's talking about his mom and Hurricane Harvey. I think that's just a really relevant topic, and I think it's cool that someone's covering it. And it's not how it directly impacts him, but it's how it directly impacts family. And it's talking about not only Hurricane Harvey, but how his family members went through Katrina too. And it's just these like crossover events, I guess, that are just crazy. I don't know. I just really like the track. I think it's really introspective. I think that would have been the perfect closer. Not that I don't like 5200.
I think that
I think it's just not as
Roaches would
good.
have been a really good closer.
And I can't overstate how much I love like the little intros and outros to all these songs with his dad, or it's these two girls that are talking, or whether it's Maxo Kream saying "Google me, bitch" or whatever.
Google me, bitch. Or the verse Donald Trump and Red Cross acting like some hoes.
Yeah.
Like, it was so funny. There's like a lot of funny insights, a lot of funny verses. Just be yourself, Mr. Cream.
Mr. Cream, don't Maxo Kream yourself. In the end, I like this project. I'm gonna give it a 6.5. That's what I feel about this project. I wanted to give it a 7, but there's too much I just like dislike about this project. When it shines, though, it shines really bright. I really like Maxo Kream. I wish the best for him. I hope he improves. And he's put out the best trap record I've heard this year. I can honestly say that. So that's good.
For trap, it's good trap music.
We're gonna talk about Travis Scott and Quavo later, and that's bad trap music.
I'm gonna have to give Mr. Maxo Cream a 7. 6.5 was a pretty decent score, but I've got to give him the extra half a point because I seriously just believe in him. I think that he has a lot of insight, and I seriously think that he can make something fantastic if he lets himself be himself. But you're on the probation list, buddy, so better straighten up.